Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Chat with Chap. I'm your host, Ginger Wade, and as you can see, I have some wonderful guests. But before I introduce them to you, I want to remind you that the convention is coming up June 11th through 13th. You do not want to miss it. These lovely folks we are speaking to today are going to be there. This is part of our convention speaker series on Chat with Chap, and they are going to just bring such good instructional, informational, helpful, transforming messages to us. No pressure or anything, guys, but you're not going to want to
By
miss
God's
it.
grace.
You're not going to want to miss it. So go to conv.chaponline.com, check it out today, get registered today. And yeah, let's just jump into it. Who are these lovely people? Well, these lovely people are Dr. Roger and Jan Smith. They are friends of mine for many years now. So I am so glad that you guys are finally able to come to the CHAP convention this year. Yay! So excited.
We are
We are
too.
too.
Yeah. So how about you tell us a little bit about yourselves before we talk about convention-y things so our audience knows, who you are.
Okay. Well, we hail from Louisiana,
Yay.
downstream from all you folks in Ohio. I'm sorry, in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Ohio. All that water comes down the Ohio to the Mississippi and down past our house, just 40 miles to the east of us. We live near the Mississippi River, and so I'm a medical doctor in a small town. Jan and I have been married for 43 years. Jan runs some businesses that we have, and so life is busy, and yet the part of the journey that's been the most exciting has been the raising of our children and home educating them and nurturing them and seeing them grow and flourish. And to love one another and to love us, So those are some things that have been great. So
And to see the fruit of that now, I was just telling you that our oldest son and his wife and three boys are here this weekend. And it has been such a joy to watch him parent them. And last weekend, we babysat in Austin for our oldest two sons to take a anniversary trip. They were both married in February, and they took an anniversary trip because their wives are best friends, and they live an hour apart in Texas. All four of our kids are in Texas, but that's a fruit of the years of them knowing each other, and so we get to bring not just the fear that we had getting started, but the fruit of our labors that we see now.
yeah.
And that we can communicate hope, if nothing else, because it's not because we were just perfect or had it all right, because we were shooting in the dark. It was a venture by faith. And, we had known some homeschoolers, but when we got started back in 83 was our introduction to, we met this homeschool family and their kids were incredible and open-hearted and free and knew scripture and
They
they
were
were really
curious.
fun.
They engaged adults like we'd never seen before. So we said,
That was our introduction to homeschooling. Yeah,
yeah.
we want that. We want
Yeah.
kids like that. And
Mhm.
if that's a route to take, then I'm all in. You
Mhm.
know, I'd just been teaching junior high when um at an upper middle class school when these kids were introduced to us when they moved from Oregon. They came from Oregon to Louisiana. And it probably been years later before because we're one of the last to adopt things in Louisiana. But little backwoods, but we had that family that moved here and introduced us. And I knew after teaching junior high, when I was young, I was like 22, right out of college. And I said, we need better mothers, not just better teachers. We need better mothers.
Mhm.
And so we hadn't even had children yet. And
Yeah.
we said, we're going there.
And so we set ourselves on the path of learning about home relationships. The marriage, the parent-child relationship, the sibling relationships. So that's the area where we work most is in those home relationships. And several of our sessions will involve those things. And so that's a little bit about us, and we're
Yeah, that's
excited to be
so,
coming to
so
Pennsylvania.
yes. Oh my gosh. I've been telling them for years. I'm like, Roger and Jan, come on, you guys. And so I'm excited. And I personally push the marriage and parenting things. I'll tell you why in a minute. But so you were saying that you were looking into these relationships before you even had children, like when you were early married. Wow. See, that's talk about prepared. Here we go. I love that. Yeah, see,
See, see,
that,
at that time, I actually was very much, I was interested in relationships. No, no, don't get me wrong, but I was so hyper focused on my academic training and preparing for
yeah.
my career, whereas Jan was really, she's always been much more relational, and so she set the pace in that, and yet every time she would learn something and share it with me, I would go, "Wow, that's really interesting. Let's learn some more about that." And so, so it's definitely been a tag team effort through the years.
Mhm. So she's the researcher. Are you the researcher, Jan? Do you do the research, or are you
Well,
both
I'm
researchers?
curious and I'm always learning,
That's
always reading,
yeah,
always
yeah,
growing. I don't know that I would call it research
yeah.
as much as the a desire to know and
Mhm.
understand.
Well, I would say that she is ultimately an early adopter. So she hears something about it, it sounds great. She's all in. I'm the one go, slow down just a little bit. Let's check this out. So anyway, but she's an early adopter, and
Yeah,
it's been a good journey together.
good. That's wonderful. So obviously, homeschool was a perfect scenario for that the relationships and building the relationships.
Yeah,
It just made sense, right? It just,
yeah.
yeah, that's wonderful. So I just have to share this little anecdote. So you guys, the out there, our audience has sent us to the leadership conferences. And so we tell them about them so they know what it is that they're doing when they're sending us to leadership conferences. But I was at a leadership conference once and I gave updates about the CHAP organization in a fun little accent because that's what I do. And Roger wrote me this lovely little thank you note that I still have, Roger, and I read it on occasion. It was so kind and so nice, and it made me feel just like Steve and I and the CHAP group that we were just welcome into the group because Steve and I took on a role like the time was passed to us, right? And then we took up the headship. So it was this whole time of shifting and stuff. So we're still like, and you guys have just been so welcoming. So you're very special to me in that way and making us feel welcome in the leadership arena. So I just wanted to
Nothing
throw.
happens without leadership. And that goes for in the home, in an organization.
Mhm.
And so there is a lot, we teach a lot of leadership principles
Mhm.
because of that.
Mhm.
And, we think about that and applied in a business sense, but it
Yeah,
really is parenting is leadership.
yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know if you guys know, but the convention theme this year is Rejoice and Hope. Okay, and it's coming from Romans 12:12. So my version reads, Be joyful in hope, be patient in affliction, be faithful in prayer, which of course is like, you
Yeah.
know, that's what you're living, especially in a homeschool sense. I think of it as, man, you're really thinking about that. We're relating it to CHAP also because it's our 40th anniversary this year. So there's been a lot of that happening in our organization over the 40 years that we've existed. So it seemed like a really great theme. And as I read your sessions, I was like, wow, like this is just perfect to go with that theme. So everybody, I'm just going to introduce you to what they're going to be doing here. I'm just going to read the titles and then we'll talk about them a little bit. But so parenting principles for closeness, prescription for a healthy marriage, and discipline that draws children closer. You're going to do those together, right? And
Right.
then Jan's going to do, is there a different way? Help me to know my options. And then Roger's going to do tending to your child's emotional health. So these are, I just eat this stuff up. I just think it's so necessary, right? And so wonderful. So are there any of these five that you guys are particularly, and you can have different opinions, of course, that you're excited about sharing in Pennsylvania? Is there anything that's grabbing you?
Well, our I tend to gravitate toward the parenting issues because you know in the homeschool space, I mean, a lot you're with the children so long, so much of the time, and so the more wise you are in that relationship and managing it, you know, there you have the opportunity to take it quantum leaps forward or for it to be stagnant. Hey, let's move forward. So I love these parenting principles for closeness and for, you know, the discipline that draws them closer. You know, so it's the whole idea is we want as the relationship goes further and further along is that there is a closeness, not in a clinging kind of way, but in
Hmm.
a interdependent kind of way, like, hey, you know, we're better together than we are
Hmm.
separate. You know, we're not running from one another. And there is a time when your children actually kind of pull away from you as they're becoming adults. You know, that happens, and we address that in the parenting principles, and that being ready for that, and that it's not. Don't take that personal. They are becoming their own person.
I have a story for you that and we love to tell stories in our sessions, and because we're very real, we didn't do it perfectly, but we do believe that your expectations and what you're thinking is realistic makes a difference in your own self doubt and frustration with yourself because I was not prepared when with my children. You know, there's a transition with your first child from being reacting like a sibling to becoming the parent. And I'll never forget the first time my barely turned two child, I said something to him and he slapped me across the face. And I, you know, little bitty thing. And I just reached out and slapped him back. And I thought, oh, wait, I can't do that. He's not my sister because I was raised with sisters and we slapped. And
Yeah.
I thought, I'm sorry, we don't slap each other, Caleb. We, you know, and so anyway, I had
Yeah.
to change and to respond as a parent. And we were taken by surprise by things, attitudes and adjustments. And so we kind of do an overview from early childhood through those teen years and even letting go because we've gone the whole gamut to our, you know, one of our sons that was our difficult one that
You have any difficult ones?
we
Oh,
kind of all
no,
have
not at
one
all.
or more. But he's the one that, you know, after his first year of college, he came home that summer and worked from home. And he told me, "Oh, Mom, you have matured so much this year." I said,
Nice
"Thanks.
of him to say that.
You've matured a lot too, Rodney." So anyway, it's fun from the little to the older, but it's challenging and there's so much self-doubt. And we want to help equip parents with the proper expectations and
Yeah.
hopefully some tools and right thoughts
Yeah.
for how to conduct themselves through the years. It's not a list of do's and don'ts, but
Mhm.
some practical guidelines of what to expect. And you know, ultimately the goal, whether it's in a marriage or with your children, is that we want to love one another, you know, to be excited about getting to keep each other when the kids are all gone and to know that we've got the rest of our lives together and not who are you and you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
and be lost with one another. So we don't want that to happen during the homeschool years. We want it to be a team and not alienated.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got to address the marriage because you need his full support. You need to
Mhm.
feel like y'all are on the same team and doing this together. We felt like homeschooling was from the time they woke up until the time they went to bed because it's way more than the school books.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
training them and
For life.
equipping them for life.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't realize when I started homeschooling, and it actually has, Steve and I actually, we're in the middle of teaching a parenting class at our church right now. But one of the things that we learned through homeschooling and parenting too, obviously, is just that how God is trying to change you. It's not necessarily for the kids. It is for the kids. It is for the kids. It benefits the kids. But he is doing so much work in you through your marriage and that relationship and through your children and those relationships. And then adding like the responsibilities of homeschooling on top of it just, could exacerbate issues, right? If there are any.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I would say that today I would not be the person that I am if it were not for being together with my kids all the time and then taking on the responsibility that God calls us to be parents, to be parents and parent our children and take that responsibility on and also yield ourselves to Him so that
Yeah.
we become who it is that He wants us to be. So,
We just recently had an experience with our children. We're going through John Maxwell's certifications for coaching, teaching, speaking, training, all of those things. And
mhm,
so we were preparing for a Maxwell training conference that we went to, and we did a 3-minute speech. Now we speak a lot. We do.
mhm.
But this was interesting because we used to do speech and debate. That's one of the things we did with our children is that Roger was on the national board. We were leaders for 10 years and
Wow.
trained a lot of national champions. But boy, was it fun to send our speech to our children who did that and to say, "What do you think?" And they said, "We don't like it. Ditch it." And
Yeah, and so the tables have turned. We were once the coach and the advisors, and now they're coaching us. And
No.
but they love us.
that's
They believe in us.
exactly.
They know us.
Yeah.
And they said, I just don't think that's your real heart coming through there. I think you can do that better.
Yeah.
Or let's do, think about this. And to know they know us. They know the good, the bad, the ugly. And nobody else can cheer for you like somebody who really knows you and believes in you. It was transformative for me and Roger to realize we had equipped high caliber kids
Yeah.
that could now help coach us to go to
Yeah.
the next level of
And
who
so
God wants us to be.
and that's what we want to kind of paint the picture is that it can happen, that you have the kind of relationship you invest in them and the dividends come much later. At first it seems like you're putting all your money in the bank, so to speak, of their lives, and it can be exhausting.
Mhm.
But it's not without purpose or value and return. The return will come. And we want to be able to give hope. There's your theme again.
There
Hope.
it is.
Hope
Yeah.
that there will be a return. Follow some good principles in the relationship. And it's not about information, it's more about inspiration and care and love and care. The information sometimes kind of takes care of itself. I'm not saying don't work hard on getting information, but it's not the main thing. It is part of it. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And
Yeah.
so that's where we want to give hope is that down the road there will be a return.
Mhm.
For the hope
That.
set before you, that end goal of our children that love us and that child to feel loved by us, you
Mhm.
know, and that ultimately they're going to love, hopefully, one another and to love God.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was rocking my first child, it was just such a transition to go from being a career person to sitting there nursing that baby. And I thought, all I can do is to sit and rock this baby and nurse this baby, and the world is dying and going to hell, and I'm not able to do a thing about it except for nurse this baby. And yet now, when I think about what our children are doing, the kingdom work that they are accomplishing is just so exciting,
Mhm.
and that same child that I felt like I wasn't doing anything but nursing him and rocking is now impacting the lives of so many other men that I don't even know. We do a candle in the window where we have host people with all those empty bedrooms upstairs now. And one of
Mhm.
the first missionary families that came walked in our door, and we have a little collage of pictures. And he goes, "Oh, you know Caleb and Catherine Smith?" And we said, "Little bit." And he said, "Well, they support us." And then instead of hosting strangers for the weekend, we were hosting friends of our son who he gives monthly to support. Anyway, it just, there is fruit, and it's not without purpose.
Yeah.
Some
Oh,
of
that
our years were painful, but
is,
it's with hope. It's with
yeah.
hope, and that's what we want to give.
Yes. Yeah, and like you were saying, it's a long-term thing. It's not you're pouring in and pouring in and pouring in and the it comes later. Like what you see, the results, it comes later. It will come. It's starting to come for me, which is really it's such an amazing thing. I get so sad when I hear about the parents who have their kids home until, eighth grade or whatever, and oh, senior high is just so scary, and they put them somewhere else for senior high, and like, no, like that's when you start to see.
Those are the best years for
Yeah.
us. The high school years were the best. We're not talking about high school in any of our sessions this time, except it'll creep in some of the other
Yeah.
topics. For us, the high school years were the best.
Yeah.
But I kind of did the same panic thing because when they I was so proud of who they were, and I loved my children. But I was, I was afraid they were going to end up being like me, and that's a kind of a scary proposition for any mom to go, that I don't want to mess them up. That
Yeah.
fear of messing them up. So I went to Roger and I said, I don't know. I think we've done well. Let's leave it while it's good enough. And he goes, absolutely not. He said, do you like the kids at youth group or our children better? And by that time, they were old enough for me to go, oh, definitely our children. He says, Jan, if you were to die, I would quit my medical practice and do ER on the weekends and homeschool these kids because of the value that I see. We didn't know a lot of end products then. We didn't know those kids, how they turned out in the end from Oregon. And so we were the only homeschoolers we really knew, and he said, no, we're doing this. He said, we're all in. I've got your back. And I said, well, you're going to have to help. And I went to the kids and said, y'all going to have to pray for me because I'm all you got. I'm the best you got. So y'all pray for me that we will put this thing together and let's just give it our best shot. And I'm so glad we did. Those high school years were the beginning of the fruit years, and seeing God start to take over in their lives and accomplish and provide opportunities for them that were beyond our control, and just to
And in
see,
some ways, beyond our imagination.
yes,
We couldn't envision some of the things that actually came to
they got
fruition
to do.
in their years, and so but it was a journey, one step, one faith step at a time. And so,
So,
I-
but what you said touched on something that is so important though, because when Jan was faltering, you were like, no, we're doing this thing. We're doing this thing. I will support you. This is that important. And I think that unity of spirit in the marriage is just key to the
yeah,
health and the
yeah.
strength of the family. Like, just outside of homeschooling, just raising a family, that unity is you got to have it or it's not, ugh.
And
Um,
he stepped up, Ginger. And in those high school years, he did the algebra and the chemistry and all of that stuff. And it may have been at 10 o'clock at night around the table, but homeschooling gives you the freedom
Yeah.
to do what's right for your family, and it's different at different seasons. When one of the things that we loved about homeschooling when we first started is that he was starting his medical practice right after residency, and we married early, and so I had my first child at 23. So by this time he was first grade, and they would have gone to bed at like 8 o'clock at the latest.
And that was what time I got home. So I would have never
um,
seen the children. I left before they got up, got
yeah.
home about the time of normal bedtime. We, and that was one of the motivating things for us to home educate, not just the prior product that we'd seen, but just the fact that I wanted a relationship with my children and we could adjust their schedule to mine.
Yes.
And so it was as much functional about the relationship than it was about the education.
Mhm.
And so that's
It's just it's worth the investment of your time and your energy. And even coming to the conference, I don't care how many podcasts you listen to, I listen to a ton of them, and I highly encourage it.
Mhm.
Take your walk, do your thing. But when you come to a conference and you sit in the midst of God's people, he
Mhm.
promised that he would be there in your midst. And we just experienced that going to a conference where you stop the dishes, the laundry, the reading lessons, everything stops and you sit before the Lord, and your heart and your ear is open to that speaker. And God can use someone even as inadequate as we are. He can speak through us because he knows the needs of your heart. And when
Mhm.
you avail yourself, he says, if you will seek me, you will find me. And Coming to a conference is an investment. It is a seeking of answers. And every year when we went to the conference, and we did because we didn't have all that other stuff, it was our lifeline going to a conference. And every year, God was faithful for us to come home with one or two things
Yeah.
that we changed about the
Yeah.
way we were doing family. And we believe that God will do that in the lives of your followers, that if they will come to this conference, bring a friend, because I believe that God will speak to your heart. We are a Christy Faith fan. We love Christy Faith. Will We knew him through speech and debate as a high schooler.
Will
What is
Estrada.
Will Estrada?
Is
We've
Will
known
now?
him
Wait,
since he.
is he going to be at your?
Yeah, he's our lawyer. He's our
I
Okay.
guy.
I thought so. We know a lot of the other speakers that are coming. So
Yeah.
it's not just us that we're speaking for. I believe that these people are seeking the heart of God, and that if you come and you're seeking God, He's going to speak to your heart
Yeah.
because He is faithful.
Yeah. Your lineup of speakers is superb.
Well, thank
I
you.
think that you've really assembled a diverse and powerful group that will inspire, not just give you ideas or a to-do list, but
Mhm.
give you some of the why. Why why do I keep doing this thing that's so hard?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's important to have a why. You know, we were talking earlier about what is the beauty of home education. The beauty is it can be changed for how your child learns. It can be
Mhm,
adjusted on the fly anytime
mhm.
when it's needed.
Yeah,
And sometimes, if something is not working, your child's resistant, your child is crying, and you're crying,
yeah.
change something. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of Jan's session about what are my options. You know, we can't cover all the options, there are too many,
Yeah,
but you can at least come away with a new idea. Go, okay, this is a pain point for us. Here's another idea that we can try a different approach to this, a different tool, a different something, you know, and make it more pleasant. Learning should be pleasant and fun.
yeah, yeah. And I think when another thing that Jan, but there's also other folks too helping at the convention with this is just retraining us to think about education. I think we've all been taught something that isn't true about what education is supposed to look like, right? It's just not what most of us have learned through going through government school and stuff like that. So I'm excited about opening people's eyes. Like one of my sessions is about that. It's about myth busting, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And just let's think about this a different way. Or there's one I even say, let's think outside the box, or you know what, let's just destroy the box and we'll just look over here. Get rid of the box.
I
Um,
started outside the box because I was so bored with traditional school growing up. I was just so frustrated. And I
mhm,
was now free to do school the way I wanted to do school with my kids. And yet I learned when my daughter, who was the second child, the first two were 18 months apart. And, so I kind of did them together. And they were scoring like 98 percentile on their spring test. And I
mhm.
felt like things were going great, but my daughter felt like she was behind. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, we never do school." And we talked about it, and I realized what she heard described as school and saw in her mind was filling in the blanks. And we were
Mhm.
doing it so outside the box that she didn't realize she was doing school. She loved it. There was no pain involved. She
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
writing and piano and art and reading. And it was just, she just thought she was having fun. So I bought some workbooks in every subject. And after Roger would do devotions in the morning and he would leave and we'd have breakfast and clean up, and she would then do school and go
Mm,
through and fill in all of her blanks for the day. And then she was free to play with us the rest of the day while we did our unit study and all
mhm,
the other stuff
mhm,
that was in a
mhm.
non traditional way, an outside of the box way. And she could breathe easy because
And
she
that's what
filled in
you
her
needed.
blanks.
So that's what you
She
did,
needed that.
Yeah, she had a need that the others didn't have, and it took us a while to figure that out.
right?
But
she didn't feel behind anymore because she was doing school.
Yeah, so she was confident, and there you go. And that's awesome. Kudos to you to for doing that. Okay, I'll go buy you the dollar store paper so you can fill out papers instead of being like, oh, you don't need those. We're doing it differently, right? You met her need, right? And then she was
Yep.
confident in
Gave her a big red check, and she was good.
Put an A at the top. We're going to do that in the marriage group class too, is that we talk about a lot of concepts, but we also give a lot of tools and help evaluate
Yeah.
couples to evaluate understanding one another. And, because again, those expectations
Yeah,
of what we think should be and could be, that we do some myth busting in the marriage class.
good. That's good. And that's needed there too, right?
I'm equipping, yes.
Yes. So I love what you said, Jen, about being there, being together. Like God just works something in our spirits when we are physically present with each other. So yeah, I really hope everyone like takes this to heart, and guys out there, get registered for the convention, get there so we can be together and be like, I think of the hymn, Blessed be the tie that binds, right? We're all together and there's this tie that binds us together and we are together there. And even if we don't maybe aren't in each other's physical presence or maybe not even messaging, we can still remember that time that we had together and pull strength from that.
Hmm.
Um, months down the road when we face challenges or whatever.
So
So,
I want to speak to the men that could possibly be listening. Usually
yeah.
women are listening to these shows,
Well, you
but
know what? On Spotify, my audience is mostly men, which is blows me away.
wow,
So there you
wow.
go. At least that's what Spotify tells me. I don't know if it's true, but
Well, I will say that for me, whenever I went to the conference, and I went every year except for one that I can remember, but nonetheless, it was inspirational and equipping for me because I didn't feel like the church did a good job of teaching parenting and maybe not even marriage
yeah.
and maybe not even visionary leadership in the home. But every year we came away with one major change in our family, and
Mhm,
sometimes it was a major change in me. Just
mhm,
I was the one that needed to change, and then it had a ramification in our family life. And
mhm,
so it I really encourage the men to think of this not as the homeschool mom event, but
Something my wife
it
does.
is a family event. And where at all possible you men can come, I I challenge you, take the time, invest in yourself by coming to this event with your wife. And so invest in yourself.
If you want to learn from a homeschool father, you need to learn from this one because he did it right. He started the day with devotions from our children based on something we learned at conference. And at
Right.
night he read aloud. And so he may not have gotten home till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, but when he walked in that door, he was fully ours.
mhm,
And from then until we went to sleep, he was engaged. And
mhm.
so there's
So
something to be learned from him.
yeah, what I would say is our style is never to make one feel guilty. We just want you to move one step forward,
Mhm,
one step forward.
mhm,
Don't look at, compare yourself to someone's end result, because if you saw us where you are, you would feel a whole lot more comfortable. We've been on this journey many, many years, and it took us all those years to get to where we are. And so one step closer, and we want to help you to make that one step.
And there's not one perfect way to do it. It
Mm.
all works, but it's worth fully engaging in the relationships with your family. And that's our main core message is that your children, this life of living with your family is worth your wholehearted investment. And when you win at home, then you win at work
Yeah.
because your work is affected by the quality of life that you have at home.
mhm, mhm. Well, now it all makes sense to me why you're so dear to me because it sounds exactly like Steve and me. Very, very, very similar to us and our experience with going to convention and getting the training and the growing and the step by stepping and all that stuff. So yeah, there's no better way to grow than in this close proximity with your family
Yeah,
consistently and
yeah,
with your home structured the way God designed it to be structured, right? With the
yeah,
father leading and all that. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So,
And in our failures, you fail forward. You either learn by your mistakes, or you get set back. But there's going to be mistakes, there's failures, there's hard time, there's suffering.
yeah,
When I were older and in that young married and having children phase, and there was a day when if you had asked me how your kids do it, I would have had to say, it's pretty scary right now because they all had hard things happening.
mhm,
And I was like, Lord, is there some other way to grow besides suffering? And the answer is really no. It's through those pain points that we grow.
yeah,
And that's his heart. That's God's heart for us, is that we know him, but we want that pressure and that pain to press us closer to him and not to
mhm,
separate us or
mhm,
to separate us from him and to say,
mhm.
you could do something about this, Lord,
mhm,
you know, and he could. But his desire is that we cry out to him and know him. And that's what we're going to encourage you to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for coming on the show and sharing with everyone. Guys, audience out there, if you are not totally excited about coming to the convention now, I don't know. Wake up because it's just going to be so fun. Roger and Jan, thank you so much for being on my show today. I can't wait to see. We're going to have to do something when you guys come in June. I don't know what we'll do. We'll come up with something fun to do together.
We'd love that.
Spend some time with you. Everybody out there who's listening, remember to register. You want to go to conv.chaponline.com. You can register for the convention, and then once you register, in your confirmation email, you'll be able to volunteer. You can sign up for Team Track. You can be a UCS seller and all that. But go out there and register. We can't wait to see you in June. Special needs conference, beginners, high school, like the whole thing. You're going to love it. Roger was mentioning the dads out there. We have Dads and Donuts with Abraham Hamilton is going to be doing that. So you're not going to want to miss that. He's going to have very good message for the guys out there too. So we want to see you. And you know what? If for some really sad reason you can't make it to the convention, there are recordings. So if you can't be with us and, you know, make that tie that binds with your physical presence, you can get recordings. So never fear. Keep your eye out on the e-news. So you can go to chaponline.com and sign up for e-news. Make sure that you're in the know with that. So thank you so much, Jan and Roger, for being on my show. I'm
Thank you
very
for
glad.
having us.
Yes.
We are delighted. We really are looking forward to being with you and Steve and your whole crew. And and we should talk about something that maybe we could do for some of your volunteers. If so, we'll brainstorm on something like that.
Okay. Sounds fun. I like that. That'll be great. Okay, everybody, don't forget the foundation of biblical marriage and parenting as you train your children to follow Christ in all of life. And I will see you next time. Have a great time until then. Bye now.